the official topic of the day, which is the Discovery Monday. Today, we are talking about a new tool called Dora. Dora is a new no-code platform, but their twist is you have a 3D integration, and we've talked about them in the past with an interface that looks extremely similar to all of the other no-code platforms, so similar to Figma. We'll see what we can do. And so they say that we can unleash the power of 3D, which we'll see. They have advanced animation, so I hope that it's really good, responsive, we're good. They have templates, interesting, like you can't really not do that. One of the reasons why we are testing it today is because I've been contacted directly by Dora on Twitter that they asked me if I would be interested to explore this tiny thing that they call Dora AI officially, and I'm supposed to have early access to AI thing, and we're gonna check that out. As always, the thing that we do is we do a bit of an overview of what we have when we create an account for the first time, and then a bit of an overview of the interface when we arrive there. But first thing first, arriving here, I'm getting a bit of an onboarding thing that is telling me what type of tool am I familiar with. So I know tools like Figma, I know tools like Blender and Spline, I also know HTML and CSS, not React entirely, but I do know things. I know no-code tool as well. I am familiar with After Effects, and I do not really have a lot of experience with creative tools like Midjourney and Tome. So for now, let's move on with the next step, which is who will you be building a website for, which is myself. That's about it. How did you hear about Dora? I think the first time is one of you in chat that says, have you heard about Dora Run? And I said no, and then we checked it out. So, fellow quoting, what best describe your role? I am something, product designer, or you are employed at your workplace. But zero, it's just me. I'm unemployed. So we have a main card, again, floating main card. We have the logo on the top left, the navigation or base navigation on the side panel on the left, and then top is my account and a button to create a new project. So this is making a lot of sense. I have the Dora AI thing, and then I have a get started with the app tool, video tutorials, input from Figma, and the documentation. So that's good. How is this? This is really a Figma copy from what I can tell. We have a new interface. The left panel is the pages, components, and the layer list. It's called layer list. On the right side, we have the inspector, which right now I have nothing selected, so I'm expecting the basic of the page. But then if I select, I don't know, that, the inspector changes with more information. So that is cool. At the top, I have some tools, including the AI thing, which has a nice hover effect. And then I have these things, design and data. That is interesting. Here I have the saved icon, some keyframe panels, interesting icon as well. The desktop view, the zoom, the prototype or preview. So we are good with everything. I feel like it's really simple. The amount of preset, oh my God, that's a lot. Yeah, data. I'm gonna press play just to check if it's already done. My constraints and layouts are sending me here, so that's another page. I can see that we have fixed navigation, we have alignments, we have things to try out, but obviously because I went into this thing called preview, it's not that good. That is interesting. From the videos and the GIFs things, it's different than our usual behaviors for auto layout and stacks, so we'll see how that works. I think I need to go into the non-player to play, to have fun with these things, because they say try it out, but also I have a feeling that click a constraint and/or and link it to left, and then you can do that. It is really interesting in the way that they built that. They have things with keyframes, which apparently they also open the timeline directly, so that's pretty good. Open the keyframe panels, which is here. Add your first keyframe, which is here, and then that is really weird. I don't understand. So the places of things are related to the scroll position. So your keyframes are basically happening on scroll. We have a lot of 3D, add a 3D widget, import 3D model, 3D scene support, multiple 3D models. Okay, enter 3D editors, edit the camera, edit the 3D model. Input from Figma is pretty interesting. They have a bit of an issue right there, but that's fine. So they have a plugin apparently that will probably give you the ability to just transfer your data from one tool to another. They have a different type of icon on the side. You can create a component by click button and click create component. Where? Okay, they really need to explain where things are. But let's create a component, and then you have the same behavior as Framer. So if I have a different state, I can define that as my hover state. And then from here, I'm guessing that if I'm taking the lighting icon, which is usually the thing, and it's not an on click, it's on mouse enter or on mouse, have a different state. Cool. That makes sense. We are good with that. I want to change the color. So on hover, it does something different, but they have a behavior that is really similar to Framer and Figma at the same time. So that is pretty interesting, right? On hover, it's cool. It is, however, annoying to not have all of the fucking instruction visible, and you only have them when you click on play. Just the thing, because you can't really explore and interact with these things when they say create component like from here. I can't click on that and then click plus because it doesn't exist. So Dora, if you can fix your tutorial, that would be highly appreciated, so that we have some interesting things. And you can drag components into places. I'm gonna do that, right? Holy shit, there is more pages. You can have an image sequence. So if you export your 3D renders into multiple images, you can use that to have an image sequence go through while you are, in order to get like the video style, video on scroll animation. So that's pretty useful. Cool. And then we have database, which is, as the name implies, some data that is coming from outside. So you have added a grid view, and then based on the data, get something. So yeah, and then we have things that is saying constraint, but we don't have a paint for constraint, which technically is just going back to the first one. Let's go back to, before I create a new project, I just want to recap what we just read. So Dora is a pretty simple to understand for now tool that is a no-code tool in the browser that has the ability to be extremely familiar, like Framer and Figma in terms of UI. We have the same types of feature as in components, animation, and 3D as other platforms. I need to check the 3D 3D rendering environment to see if it's as easy to understand as Spline or if it's as easy to understand as Blender, which is more complicated. There is the AI tool that I need to try. I was supposed to have access to this. I should have had access. I didn't. No, you can't turn me on with feet. I'm not American. Sorry. Not talking in feet. So I was right. The data is basically a CMS collection, so that's pretty cool, and we can have multiple data entries. So that is good for now. That's my 3D things. I need to be at 0, 0, and then I need it to be at 0. So 0, 0. Then the bottom is not supposed to be at 0. The bottom is supposed to be in toe. Can I do that? I can't. That's good. Cool. I wanted to get the 3D things, but apparently I can't. I can only import a 3D scene. Oh no, I can't. I'm sad because I really wanted to check that. They sold it, the AI features for me to get access, like early access, and now I don't have access. This is bad on their end. So if we have the logo right there, followed by, I think I'm going to do a container that has some text in it that will be home. I'm doing the same classic move that I have. And then that container is going to have, I wanted like an auto layout type of situation thingy. I can't do that. Obviously, that seems like a pretty simple option. And then can I do that? Yes, I can. Cool. So this one is going to be 8 top and bottom, 16 side classic things. Cool. It also doesn't have immediate feedbacks compared to Studio Design that we tested 2 weeks ago, which is instant on everything. So if I'm changing the radius from 8 to 4, you can see that the radius is still at 8 until I press enter. Control D, Command D don't work once again. So 12, 12. If I say 12 here, then we have that. Cool. I wish, and I know that I just made that huge mistake. Can I Command G? Yes, I can. Cool. I think it's because of the constraints that I have added to these. It makes this thing not really how expected. It's weird. So far, it's one of the huge good thing and bad thing about the familiarity in design tools like these. It's so close to Figma, Framer, and other no-code tools that I want to do the things I'm used to in these tools. However, that doesn't work. My Control Command D to duplicate something, it's not an option. My Shift A to create an auto layout frame doesn't exist, and my Command Option Enter to create a stacked frame doesn't really exist right there. But when I'm encapsulating content inside of a frame, like if I'm doing this, then I'm taking off my containers and bringing them inside, only this one is showing up for some reason. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I know that I haven't read the tutorial entirely, I know that, but if I'm doing like her content and her content, I'm getting weird behaviors. I don't really get spacing option. If I get 16, 16 and 16, 16 top and bottom, I wish I could have a thing that defined the gap in between the elements, but it doesn't seem to be a thing. That is debatable in any way, shape or form situation. The image cannot be, that's so bad. The image cannot be a container, so I technically need a container here, and then I need my text inside right here. The escape key doesn't work as an escape from the current tools. It's a habit to take, I'd say. It's similar to what we used to have in Adobe Soft. The layers are not taking the names for the text layers off the text string, which is annoying as we have enter in there. It is so slow. Appreciate that. Fix is going to fill the space and her content with somehow 48 top and bottom. Sorry, 80 top and bottom. Cool. Like that page, that thing needs stuff. I need to be able to get my selection for the entirety of this page and get some padding, some behaviors, some things. If we're missing gaps in between my elements, I don't know how to do that. Like it should work. Now, do we have states? Yes, we have an event. If I have a new on hover, can I modify something? No, because I don't have components. So I would need to have, this is really close to what Figma is doing. So in order to get that thing, to have the effect we used to have on my website, we need to get the thing as a component and then create an instance of this. All right, so I need an instance that will be on hover, and then on hover for this thing, we're going to have a different color of background. And so technically I just need to do that on here rather than on here. Cool. I think that's enough. I wish we could drop some 3D things for real and go in there and like really do stuff. Check the editor and add some elements rather than just have to get the import 3D blocks. It's not really a thing. People might not have access to 3D elements. The UI is pretty cool. It's really simple, what we're used to. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's a bit buggy in some situation, but that's not a mistake or an issue, I would say. They said that I would have access to the AI thing for me to check out by March 6th. It's March 11th, so I don't have access to it, so I don't like that. Other than that is pretty good. I really like the data structure that they have, CMS collection, and I can have multiple properties of other things that are pretty useful. This is really good. I'm not going to say anything, but that's what I've built in my previous company. It behaved like I'm expecting it to behave, so that's why it makes sense to me. It's pretty simple to understand, and then you can have like your entire thing based on your CMS collection, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, going back to that, the UI is pretty simple. They are missing some things that it didn't make any sense, as in I can't create an auto layout stack as far as I know. I'm going to go back to the project, like the initial project here, and check the constraints to see if I just missed something, because maybe I have. I don't think personally that it would be a good thing to just do that, which is the first thing that I did, like aligning something to its left parent. It feels weird, but maybe this is the way. I don't know. Yeah, this is debatable. And apparently you have that here, and you change your horizontal padding spacing through that. This is so much more different than what we're used to that I don't really know if it's a good idea. So debatable. I'm looking at the constraints that you define, like for this specific block, where in order to get the profile picture to be always aligned at the bottom, like half and off, you need to define it centered to edge divider, because apparently there is a divider in the, so that feels wrong and out of place when it comes to code build. Like it's not what you expect to define the placement of something, or at least not how I would expect that. Like for me, it would be that element is going to be underneath instead of the white section. It will just have a negative margin of half the width or half the height of my element to be always in the center point. So that is debatable. I know that this implies like a calc income, which is not highly recommended, but still necessary. Anyways, it feels interesting. And then they have this behavior, which is the current behavior in Framer, in Webflow, I think as well, but not in Figma, or at least in Figma in code, but not anywhere else. So that's the thing. I'm going to go back to the 3D things. This is already way too slow. Other than that, the keyframe thing is pretty interesting. The UI of the keyframe is really similar to the UI of the keyframe that we have on Figmotion. So I do understand how it is. It's pretty simple. Can make sense. I think I'm overwhelmed by the amount of features that is available in this tool, even with the tutorial. I think that's what's happening. Like things are fine on their own. Like the basic of importing from Figma, that makes sense. Just a plugin. Components behave the same. So we are pretty good. Image sequence is just a sequence. If you drop like 15 images, it will just scroll. The database is what I said. It's really simple as well. But the 3D is really limited. If you don't have a 3D model, you can't do anything with it, which is fine. To me, I don't want to promote my tool to be a 3D first software without giving the ability to the user to do 3D, build 3D object inside of my software. Like it's really 3D based, but they don't give you the ability to have a 3D builder inside of this. So that is debatable to me, but the renders are pretty good if it works. You have that based on scroll, which makes sense. Cool. I also have a lot of issues with the non-alignment thing. Overall, Dora is pretty simple. It's pretty good. I do think that it has some issues with understanding how things behave, going back to what we have seen on other platforms like Web Studio or Figma, Framer, or Studio. All of these platforms, they have a similar behavior. Some of them are really close to code, like Webflow or Framer. Some of them are at the absolute opposite. But this one has things that behave like code, but not entirely, which is going back to what I had the main issue with Webflow, which is things are named like the code alternative of something. And in order to achieve the code, you just need like one line of code and it's done. In order to achieve the same thing in Webflow, you need 3,000 clicks on the things to ensure that the settings are set properly. Here on Dora, I do feel like it's the same thing. It is really close to Figma, but the thing that you can do in it are limited by things that shouldn't limit you. Like I couldn't find how to get the gap in between elements, and it should be named gap. You should have stacks or flex or auto layout or something, layout constraint behavior as a tool to give you the ability to do the thing that you are used to in other platforms. So yeah, I don't hate it. I don't like it either. I'm sad that they couldn't give me access to the AI features, even though they told me I would have access to it. It's kind of sad, but other than that, pretty good. We are pretty good.